I had the pleasure of teaching at a Trout Unlimited Camp for youth, and it was amazing. When I was preparing and thinking about how to teach 15 students who had never tied streamers before, I decided to teach 5 flies that would get progressively more complicated, introducing new materials and techniques so the students would learn, have fun, and at the end have some kick-ass flies. Well, I was blown away at how well everyone did, and so I decided to share so anyone can learn how to tie streamers. So without further ado, let's get tying. All right, so we're going to start with a Daiichi 2460. This is a size number 4. And I am using my Vivus 100 gel spun. You can use whatever thread it is that you desire. We're not going to be putting any crazy pressure on the materials, which is why you would need the gel spun. Okay, I'm just trimming off the excess here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use laser dub, and this just happens to be sculpin colored laser dub. And what we're going to do is we're going to blend a little bit of flash material into it. So what I've done is I've grabbed out about two 2.5-inch chunks, right? About a 1/2 inch there, about a 1/2 inch there. Pretty decent amount of material, and this is going to become my overwing basically. So I'm going to have a piece here, a piece in the middle, and a piece in the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into thirds about, and I'm just going to lay them down on my table. So there's a third there, a third there, and a third there. They're all about equal amounts. Doesn't have to be perfect. And the next material I'm going to use to blend in, this is ice dub in copper. And this ice dub came in exceptionally long pieces. So I'm just going to pull out some pieces. I'm going to pull out a strip. I'm going to put it on top of my laser dub and just cut it and leave it there. And what I'm trying to do is just blend that copper in, which is why I've done that. The next material that I'm going to use is going to be ice dub in UV pearl. And that's actually what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to grab a little bit of the ice dub in UV pearl, and this is going to become a tail. So I'm just going to pull out the excess. I'm going to lay it down and leave myself, you can see I've got about 1 inch coming off of the back here. Got about 1/2 inch up front, and I'm just going to fold that right over to go right on top, and I'm going to wrap right back on top of that. All right, so there's the ice dub. And next, I'm going to grab my first hunk of material. Now, I've put the copper on there. I'm going to do a quick blending of the materials themselves. And for the tail, what I'm going to do, and I know I had 3 equal sections, I'm going to split that in half, lay the extra right down on my table, and I'm going to pull it right back, and I'm going to lay it right on top of the ice dub in UV pearl. Wrap it down. You can see I have about 1 inch going out. I had maybe a 1/4 inch coming back. And I'm going to leave it just like that. So I've got the flash on the bottom, I've got the laser dub up top, and next I'm going to put in the lateral line, and I'm going to use the ice dub in UV pearl. Just going to pinch off a small amount, and I'm going to put it right onto the thread and just apply in equal amounts, trying to create what looks like a cord. And I've got about, I'd say, 1 inch, 1.5 inch worth of material there. And I'm going to start wrapping forward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap till I get to the halfway mark. And what I'm also going to try and do, I'm going to just dub some more material on, is to make sure that the total amount of material that I have dubbed on looks about the same. So as you look at it from the side there, you can see it's got the exact same, well not the exact, but about the same amount of material on there. So that looks good. And I've got just a little bit more to get to that halfway mark. So there we go. Now, as far as the belly material, we're going to use white marabou. So I've got a plume here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull off about, I would say that's about half an inch of material. And the way that I'm determining that is by looking at the stem. And you can see I pulled the fibers out to the side, and I've got about half an inch worth of materials. It's going to be a little different for every feather, but ultimately what you want to be able to do is create taper. So just remember you've got about half an inch of material in there. So now what I want to do is I want to have this belly go just beyond the hook, the bend of the hook there, and to start going into that tailing material. So I've got it laid. I put my vise upside down, and now I'm just going to do a couple loose wraps. So I'm going to go 1, 2 loose wraps. I'm going to grab the head of that material, just pull up, make sure that those fibers are sitting on top of that hook, pull tight, come forward with 2 other wraps, and now I'm going to trim that material right out of there. So now we've got the marabou belly on there. And I'm just going to finish wrapping those materials down and come right back to right where I was, because next we're going to put the laser dub on. So that looks good, right? We've got our lateral line, which is starting to form. We've got our darker laser dub, which is up on top, which looks great. It's got the blend in there of the copper materials. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my next chunk of materials. And remember, we've got the copper and that olive laser dub in there. I'm going to sculpt an olive. I'm just kind of mixing those materials together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it on my hook, and I'm going to bring it so that the tips go halfway down the back. And I'm just going to leave the materials there, bring my thread up, 1 wrap, 2 wraps. Grab a hold of the laser dub, pull it up, and then tighten down, come in front of it 2 times, and then I'm going to clip my excess off. Now as I look back, I always want to make sure that I have a little bit of a taper as we're going forward. And you can see the 2 materials at this point look to be about the same in total material. So I held on to the material, and if you threw it out, that's okay, because we still have some of that. In fact, let's use that. And I'm just going to grab maybe a 1/4 more inch of material out, and I'm going to lay it right on top, and I'm going to tie it in. And again, the reason why I'm doing this is I want there to be a taper and something that looks like a bait fish as it's getting thicker the more you're moving forward on the hook. Okay, so that looks great. So next I'm going to use the Ice Dub UV Pearl. I'm going to make my lateral line, just grabbing about a 1/4 inch, dubbing it onto the thread. Going to wrap right up that hook. Again, just trying to keep it about uniform in size. Grab some more out because we haven't quite gotten up where I want to be. And I'm going to leave myself a hook eye's length right in front. And that looks perfect. Okay, next we're going to go back to the marabou. I've still got my plume here. I'm going to grab about 3/4 to an inch worth of material. It's not exact, but I know I need more, and I can always add or take away. So I've stripped the material off. I'm going to rotate my fly upside down, and now I'm going to lay the tips so they're about halfway down the back. So I transferred the material to my left hand. It was over here. I've done 2 loose wraps. I'm just going to pull up gently to make sure that it stays in place. Pull down, come forward, and do 2 wraps. And now I'm going to do a quick trim and take a look just to see how it looks overall. And it looks like I just need a little bit more. So I'm just going to grab that plume again, grab a couple fibers off, and lay them right down. Same distance. 2 loose wraps, 1, 2, pull them up, looks good. Tighten them, come in front. Get those materials out of the way. And that's that. Okay, now we're going to go back to our laser dub with copper. I'm grabbing that last bunch that we created. I'm going to just do a mix to make sure all the fibers get blended in there nice. And the last thing I'm going to do, I want the tips to go about halfway down the back. I'm just going to do that. Do 1, 2 loose wraps. Now this time we're not going to trim the materials off. We're going to preen everything back and come right on top. There's 1, 2, and now I'm just going to grab my super glue. Go about 1 inch worth of material on there. Of course, you can always do a wrap on there. Cinch it down nice and tight. Coming in with my razor blade. And what I meant is you can always do a half hitch on there. And that's it. So what you can see by looking at this is you've got a very nice back, right, which tapers. It goes from the thin to the heavy. Same with the belly. And then you've got a really nice lateral line right there on the sides. So what I wanted to show you guys is how to create a taper if you didn't get one when you were just laying the materials down. Especially with this synthetics, it's extremely easy, where you just basically come in at an angle and you create your minnow taper, which, if you think about it, right, it's a little bit heavier up at the head in the front, and then it tails down into the back, or the tail itself. And so I just used my regular scissors to create that taper. And then I also really like to use these anvil taperizing scissors. And I'll just come in right across the top and just pull some of that material out. And you can see it just helps to add a little bit more taper. And less is always more when you're doing trimming like this, to make sure that you don't take too much off. And that looks great. Thanks for watching. Hope that helps you out.